welcome to the Games for Life podcast, where each and every Friday / Saturday / Sunday discovering all things games. I'm one of your hosts, Jerrell, with me, and it looks like we're rocking it old school style. My co-author Arthur looks like Church won't be with us today, but what's going on, man?
Just the two of us.
We can make it if we try.
Yep. We're doing good. Full transparency, we are absolutely recording on a Sunday than normal because somebody who shall remain named Arthur didn't watch The Last of Us. I don't know. I just had a busy week and I don't know, stuff. I was like, oh, time flies by when it decides to fly by. And I realized also, Jerrell, because I try to pick up OT shifts at work, and originally I told myself I wasn't going to pick up OT on Friday so I could watch The Last of Us right before the show, right before recording. I picked up OT and then was like, oh, that's why I told myself not to pick up overtime. But the prospect of more money made me forget, which again, I unfortunately have a Dory brain. But I've since done the episode and here we are.
No worries, man. Yeah, I just scraped by and watched it the Friday that we record, so I completely understand. It's not a problem.
I will say this, Drill. It's still better than when both of us binge watched like 3 episodes of Halo to catch up and totally forgot about it.
We were dedicated. And then eventually that just dissipated because the season was trash. So it was like, oh man, we're like 3 episodes behind.
It was like episodes like 4, 5, and 6, which were the forgettable ones, all the side quest stuff. When the show was like, oh yeah, Quan's still a character. Will she be a character in season 2? No one knows. And I won't know because I won't watch it. But Joe and I had to binge watch episode 4, 5, and 6. And all of a sudden, when we record. And by the way, for full context, like you mentioned, I absolutely finished that last episode like 10-20 minutes before we start recording. Like episode 6. Credits are rolling now.
Fresh in your brain. You're just
and
like,
then
yes.
we just we have a little good laugh, just catch up with live and stuff before we record. And the episode ends, and I'm like, oh, Drill. You're like, what? Remember how we just binge watch Halo? Yeah, we forgot to talk about it completely.
Oh yeah, that was a hilarious moment when episode 2 we're just like, oh shit.
That show exists. How would you describe it? Unforgettable. Or sorry, forgettable. I forgot how words work. But no, how would you describe Halo? Forgettable.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So luckily we're not having the same type of experience when it comes to that. So it was funny. I know you were mentioning before I kicked the ball rolling with the usual jargon for Gamers for Life. You saying you were listening to some music, today / the other day. I started to, I'm a part of this, I'm in this group where this is some guys that I know from like Baltimore and like Maine, guys I do some music with. And, we're talking about Grand Theft Auto, and I was like, we're talking about the Grand Theft Auto Vice City soundtrack and how amazing it is. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to that. So I would listen to like the playlist on Spotify for Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Amazing.
That's why you posted about it. I'm on Instagram. I was on Instagram and I was wondering why, like, on Jerrell's personal profile, he just like quietly posts a Vice City soundtrack, and I'm like, okay, he's jamming, man.
It's funny too because I was like, there's certain bands where like you forget that you've listened to a lot of their music. You just haven't listened to maybe like, I'm just going to listen to this full album and this full album, but you've listened to a decent amount of their singles that have released. Like I've realized that with Judas Priest, with Foreigner, like with all these bands. And I'm like, oh yeah, like these songs are great, but I just forgot that they were attached to these bands. So man.
Foreigner, by the way, shout out to Metal Gear Solid 5. I know you're going with that.
Yeah, I'm just like, man, like I forgot. Like it's funny because there are certain songs where I'm like, okay, this is the same band, like the same band that did I've Been Waiting for a Girl Like You also did Dirty White Boys. I'm just like, okay, both good songs, but I'm just like, that's interesting. It's the same people, but yeah, man, amazing soundtrack, and I love that someone made a playlist for it on Spotify, and there's like 26 hours of music. So I'm just like totally down. So I'm really excited.
I will say shout out to a flock of seagulls who I had the random opportunity to see them live while I was in college because Santa Cruz in Northern California has a boardwalk, and Santa Monica is not the only amusement style boardwalk in California. It's
Right.
much more known. For example, if any of you are fans of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, or also, what's
Yeah,
it
vampire
called?
movie, right?
The vampire movie.
Forgot the name of it.
What's it called?
This is your department, bro. You're the Santa Cruz guy.
I've seen the movie so many times. Oh my god.
Was Donnie Darko in Santa Cruz or around there? at all?
Around there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but um Lost Blood rings a-
Lost Boys.
Lost Boys.
Lost
Thank
Boys. Yeah. Yeah.
you. I was like Lost and the B word. Um Lost Boys was filmed there, so there's a scene with the bridge and they're at the I forgot the other word. The pier there, the boardwalk.
Yeah.
But yeah, randomly, Santa Cruz used to have like free concerts, twice a month during that summer I was there, and one of them was a flock of seagulls, and I got to learn about a ton of their other IPs and songs other than I Ran. Um, but man, dude, you could tell the crowd was there for different reasons because there was like a majority of like an older people that grew up with them in 80s because I was born 80s. I was an 80s baby,
Yeah.
but not
same.
an 80s teen.
Right.
So the people that were 80s teens or 80s in their 20s are now growing up, the concert they're loving their full set list.
Yeah.
But you could tell absolutely the gamer college kids are just the youngins like me because when I Ran came up, it's like one of those concert moments where they could have just stopped the song and just put the mic to the audience. We would have
Yeah.
finished that whole set, dude.
Yeah, that's where everyone like does the Instagram stories and TikToks and stuff because we're like, I know this shit. This is my shit right here.
Yeah. Whether it's from The Wedding Singer or Vice City, such a good song.
That's awesome. Very awesome. Well, if you are listening or watching us, hello, be sure to like, subscribe here on the channel, hit the notification bell for the YouTubes, and be sure to subscribe on the podcast application of your choice. If you want to check out Arthur managing the Twitch streams, or actually no longer the Twitch streams, the YouTube streams,
YouTube.
for all things games, be sure to obviously go to the YouTube, but anything else via Gamers for Life, such as our great catalog of audio episodes that we've already recorded and videos, what have you. You can also just go to linktree.com/gamers for life, the number 4 life. It is a one-stop link to all of our episodes and all of our Gamers for Life stuff if it's not on the YouTube. So feel free to check that out. And here in the Gamers for Life podcast, we read the news while we watch or listen to what you choose. Or you can watch or listen to what you choose by clicking on the links to the time code within the description of the episode. So you can just choose what you want to check out, or you can hang out with us here at the Gamers for Life podcast. And first thing on the list here before we go into The Last of Us, which episode 7 will be kind of the beef of the episode here, but one of the most important games of this year, and one that we've all been patiently waiting for, and you've kind of been the leading fan of this game, Dead Island 2. They had some extended gameplay that happened that they showed earlier this week that you checked out, and I eventually checked out yesterday. But give me your impressions, man. They showed us a little bit more gameplay on Dead Island 2. What are your thoughts?
I'm excited for it. I love the gore system. So again, for context, self plug, Victor and I are playing and streaming and uploading it to YouTube, Dying Light. So Victor and I love that series from Deep Silver and Techland even before their split. And so that's why we got back into playing Dead Island and then playing Dead Island Riptide. And then while we were playing Riptide, like while we were replaying it, was when they announced Dead Island 2. So just again, for context, how much of a fan I was, they didn't announce it. Then we went back and started playing their games. No, we just happened to be like mid playthrough of Dead Island Riptide when they announced Dead Island 2.
Nice.
So when I saw the gameplay, the first thing that stuck out to me was the gore, because going from Dead Island to Dying Light with this Deep Silver Techland split, the biggest difference was the gore, the combat, and the movement of Dying Light. Um, I would, as of right now, there's definitely a year, multiple year gap to polish some stuff. But I would argue I've not played part two, but I would argue of the three, Dead Island, Riptide, and Dying Light 1, go with Dying Light 1. I think the gameplay, the combat holds up more, and the reason I'm going on this kind of sort of tangent is all the better things I liked of Dying Light combat versus Dead Island, I'm seeing in this trailer. I'm seeing it come back, the needle sway the other way now, and now we're seeing that combat in the Dead Island style game. Because Dead Island had that slow motion like gore thing, but it was just polished in Dying Light, and I'm seeing that polish now in Dead Island 2. The There's drop kicks, which is awesome because that's my favorite move to do in Dying Light right now. I was excited for it, not really like overly hyped, but it's not really a bad thing because since I'm in the unique position where I'm playing it, they're older games right now, so it's kind of like fresh right now, is in a positive way for me. Their gameplay and combat seems to be in the style of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'm happy for that.
Right. Right.
That procedural gore, I want to see more of it because now I'm seeing it more in Dying Light than again that was in Dead Island, where if you use a sword, the way like I thought it was really cool that even for dead bodies, because that's you can tell where games polish some stuff is if you can cut off someone's arm, but the second they die, they become a ragdoll. It's a different asset, and that video game asset works differently. So we all know that you can cut, some games you can chop a guy's head off, but the second they fall to the ground, there's no blood, there's no impact. It becomes a different thing. But in Dying Light, I was using a two-handed sword, and I cut a zombie that was already dead on the floor, and I cut it straight in half, like a butcher going down with the chainsaw on, like a pig, just boof. And I was like, this is awesome. So to see that going from the Dying Light venue more towards the Dead Island. The other thing I'm on the fence about, there's two things I was on the fence about. The script leans a little into the kind of cringy,
a little overly corny.
Azuma wrote it. So, the other thing that too is the instant kill. I'm on the fence about that because the instant kills I noticed are done differently than Dying Light. The instant kills are like prompt-ish based. It's hard to describe. Like
quick time event-ish?
Sort of, yeah. Quick time event-ish. Where in Dying Light they're fluid. Because remember, Dying Light's all about parkour, movement, it flows. Again, it's all about the flow and the movement. And though clearly Dead Island 2, so far we've seen, is not about that, I can see how, again, mid playing Dying Light, then watching this, those QTE style sort of things may take me out of it. I'm on the fence about that because I have seen those done before, and they've been done elsewhere really well. Like, for example, Shadows of War and Shadows of Mordor. Those were games where those QTE things were done very well. But again, overall, I would say not superly hyped, but still okay because it's in a category if it's not broke, don't fix it. But the script and the characters for me so far, I'm not jumping at the bit for.
Yeah.
They're kind of cringy-ish for me, but I think the gameplay and the overall, killing hordes of zombies will kind of outweigh that. Because Dying Light, Dead Island, a lot of that script wasn't amazing all the time, but I still love playing those games as I am right now.
Yeah. It's interesting too, right? Because I feel like if we talked 3 months ago about Dead Island 2, well, actually, a few months ago, we didn't think it existed, right? And then, and then once the trailer came out, we were like, holy shit, it's real. So, but I'm curious, from the point that we found out that it's real to now, it seems like the hype has gone down. Do you think it's just because we're oversaturated with zombie games? We've found other zombie games to keep us kind of preoccupied and played since we didn't originally think that Dead Island 2 came out, and that's the reason kind of why the hype's kind of gone down a little bit for you?
Yes. In fact, the hype's gone down for me a little bit because I'm scratching that itch with one, finishing Riptide, and two, playing Dying Light. I know that sounds like, oh, wouldn't you want to be more happy for it, more excited for it because now you're excited for the sequel. I'm still excited for it, but it's that itch. It's that itch that gets me going, oh, what? Oh, you know what I mean? Like, and so at the time I originally, at the time I still stand by this. When Dead Island 1 came out, it was like really the only open world class-based cooperative zombie RPG. Like I said, zombie-based survivals are a dime a dozen. They're not bad. I'm just saying the market's flooded and it's out there. Since then, we've had more and more, like Dying Light. So again, that neat at the time niche, like all the right boxes ticked. I'm having that itch scratched more. So I'm not jumping at the bit, hungering for that as much as I was before. Um, so a little bit of the market, but it gets for me personally. If I wasn't playing Dying Light right now, I would be more jumping at the bit, hyped for this. So that's why it's been dialed back a bit. The other thing too is I will say this, and speaking of hype and marketing and it's being saturated, I will say this. Whoever is releasing, not whoever, but who's ever in charge of editing the videos of the character snapshots, they're doing nothing. Like they tell us nothing. Because like Jerrell, here's a trailer. Like this is Zoe. She's quirky. She's this, and she has the ability vengeance, and it shows her killing a zombie. This is an RPG. Okay, what does it do? Does it increase her attack? Does it attack? We want numbers. We need words. You can't just be like revengeance and she instantly kills a zombie. Okay, so does her attack speed go up? Does her attack damage go up? Does her crit chance go up? Does her reload speed increase? You know what I mean? Like these again, because this is an RPG, you can't just give out bland words and be like, "Yeah, isn't that revengeance move cool?" Yeah, honestly, to a point, Jerrell, because of how I'm not saying useless, but because of how uninformative those videos are, and there's a lot, because of how undetailed and truly informative those videos are, that's actually contributing to me being less and less hyped, because they're giving me more but less at the same time. Like I said, they've had I think there was like six or seven playable characters to choose from, and all we know is their name. This was a tattoo artist. Oh, she ran away from home. Blah blah blah. I don't RP that hard. I don't go that much into the lore. I don't care. I want class, because up until now, Dead Island's been about classes. Who's the blunt weapon person? Who's a sharp weapon person? Who's the gunsmith? Who's the throwing knife person? And now we know, okay, so she's a quirky, punky tattoo artist. Cool. I have no idea now if I'm going to pick her or not. Again, another character gets shown. He has a move, like zombie rage or whatever. Like, or that's a little afforded. But again, other catch bait titles of revengeance and so like I still don't know. Again, who's like the weaponsmith, who's the gunsmith, who's the sharp, who's the bladed person, who's a specialty of throwing weapons, who's a fighter, who's this. Now, at the time of recording this, those videos may be out, but because of those ton of like 1 to 2 minute quick videos that have come out, I haven't had my ear to the ground as much because those videos weren't that informative. So now I'm like, I'll just rather be surprised when the game comes out, since those details aren't there.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I feel like by now they should have. I mean, especially if you're going to do a 14-minute of extended gameplay, you think you would talk about the game itself as far as the mechanics, right? And it's weird that, to me, because usually when it comes to something like this, there's a developer of the game that kind of leads through the full video, right? You know what I mean? So regardless of how uninspired you are hearing this person, you're at least getting a lot of detail on the game, and you know what you're getting yourself into. So it seems like for this one, it's just like, hey, look, here's more gameplay, here's more of this, but it's like, yeah, but this is also an action RPG. What are the actual RPG components? So, and then obviously they didn't give anything for the narrator, the voiceover person to talk about details for the game, and the game got pushed up because of Jedi, the
Survivor.
The Jedi Survivor,
Jedi Fallen Order
right?
too.
So it's like, yo, tell me something about this game, or I can just play Jedi Survivor. I mean, not everyone's going to do that, but some people will, So,
yeah.
I think that is a good point that you make, because the game looks fine, it looks good. I think, like you said, and kind of it's kind of a double-edged sword. Is it looks very familiar at the same time, which kind of works against it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we've seen this before. In some ways, we've played some of this before, maybe not exactly. So something like the death moves and seeing like you can pull on a zombie's brains or spine through its head, like okay, that's kind of cool, graphically. But when it comes to playing through the game, that RPG element is going to be the pushing force to get through a lot of that game, right? So do we even know if it's going to be a co-op adventure? Is it co-op?
It is, and it is.
Oh,
That's
okay,
another gripe.
okay.
Remember, that's another gripe of mine. It's a 3-player cooperative.
Oh yeah, I don't know what. I don't know if is it a technical issue why we can't just have 4? Like why do we have to have prime numbers?
Dead Island Riptide was a 5-player cooperative experience, and now it's 3. And we've, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I will say my quick soapbox of that trend of 3-player cooperative RPGs, dude. I'm not playing a battle royale trio game. I'm not doing trio matches. I'm playing an RPG cooperative game. But back to what you said, you're absolutely right that we've had games since then, and you were absolutely correct that it's no longer the gameplay that's going to carry it because apples to apples. I'm being like, oh, this is Dying Light, this is Dying Light, this is Dying Light, this is Dying Light. But again, what I just said earlier, what intrigued me about Dead Island as a zombie game was it was different because of its RPG elements. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That for me was what made it what separated up what made it apart. I can't talk right now. What separated apart from other contenders or other zombie genres. Left 4 Dead's great, but it's not an RPG. You know what I mean? Like everything has either what it's lacking
Right.
or what it's adding to that massive zombie genre. And in terms of this gameplay trailer, if you were really to make individual bullet points of what was actually new that we've already seen from the previous, because remember, when this game was debuted, like the debut announcement trailer, it was paired with a 10-minute or maybe 5, don't quote me, but it was paired with a gameplay trailer with it. So it's not like gameplay was like, oh, we've never seen it before. In a good way, they showed it to us when they announced it. But if I had to really think about what was actually new from this gameplay trailer, from the other gameplay trailer, from actual gameplay, is we saw a dropkick. We saw what the QTE style insta kills look like, and the script. That's really it. They did a thing about elemental weapons. You showed us that when you announced it.
Right.
Again, gamers are dumb. If you slap a battery in a sword and it goes buzz, 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 it's an electrical sword. You know what I mean? So, so like I said, in terms of actually what was new from this gameplay to the other one, like those are my 3 bullet points. The only new things I saw that there sort of might be parkour elements, like they had in Dying Light via the dropkick. Again, script and the QTE events. So I would have preferred a dev to go more in depth of this RPG. Like, who's this character? Like, again, I don't want to know her backstory. I don't care. Her backstory isn't going to make me buy this game for $7.
It's a Dead Island 2. We're not trying to get a full deep Last of Us,
Dude,
narrative.
We didn't wait like 8 years, and we're not willing to pay $70 because this person's a Pisces.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Who do you voodoo bitch? Did it go gold and platinum?
Dude. Like, yeah, that's what I want. Give me more of that. They did show us like kind of how a side quest works. But another thing I will say, this is also a soapbox to general trailers. Show us what your HUD's gonna look like. Stop showing us this HUD setup that no one uses, or at least the vast majority of people don't use, especially in RPG. It looks nice on the trailer, but be upfront. Like, for example, Ubisoft has a big problem with this. Remember that was a running joke when Badlands or Wildlands, one of the 50 Tom Clancy games came out, is when people were like, dude, this HUD is cluttered. You know what I'm saying? You remember that one? It was the one with John. Remember the guy with John Bernthal, the Punisher?
Mm-hmm.
The Tom Clancy game he was in, that was notorious for that. But again, all the gameplay trailers just saw this crisp but non-existent HUD.
Right.
So when I see that, I'm like, I want to know what your HUD looks like. How cluttered is it? What's it look like? They might have eventually showed it when they were doing other things, but I don't remember it. 50-50 if it's a forgettable trailer, 50-50 of a Dory brain. But I still say I want to, if you're going to show me a quote unquote gameplay trailer, I want to show what the game will look like when I am playing it, which includes a HUD.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think one thing you said too, as far as like games with 3 players versus 4 or 5, like if there are these next generation consoles per se, like give us next generation features, i.e., 4 or 5. And it's weird because it's like we've had these numbers before. We've had the numbers of people playing via co-op, and they weren't I guess at that time they were current gen, right? But now we have these new consoles and we're seeing 3, so I don't know if it's a technical issue, but I feel like it's not really an excuse at this time, just because one, Dead Island 2 was supposed to come out years ago, right? And it's pushed back. And it's not just Dead Island 2, it's other games too, but just in general, I would like to see those numbers go back up, especially for games that the core reason that people playing it is going to be a co-op online function. So I agree with that. I was going to say too, to kind of tailor off or to connect the segue via
Before
the fantasy. Oh, go ahead.
Could do 2 more. Back to your thing. So, Jerrell, back to your thing about the 3-player thing. You were saying, in older gens, dude, PS2 multi-tap had 4 slots. So,
yeah.
so when I hear again, you're right. But when I hear it's a technical concern, I'm just sitting here like, you do know the PS2 was the most successful console of all time. Yeah, we know for a fact that was a 4-player multi-tap. In fact, some games had 8-player. There are like some wrestling games for like Royal Rumble and stuff like that. You can plug in 2 multi-taps and have 8 players. So the PS2's
I would argue though that these games now are more technically advanced, so it's like, yes, you have 8, but you have there's less, power that the system has to push. But to your point, just a generation ago, we had 4-player co-op online. So it's like, that's not an excuse. Where's the 4 or 5-player co-op? You know what I mean? Like, we just had this a console ago.
Yeah. I just go back to like, that's like, oh, we can't do this, guys. But the PS2 can hold 8 players. But that's different. Okay, Tony Stark did this in a cave. So, I mean? So that's my thing. Again, you are correct. The power required, the technology required to make this, you're absolutely correct, is vastly exponentially more powerful than a PS2. But again, that's my dumb response. I'm like, Tony Stark did it with a PS2 multi-tap. The other thing I'll say is, as much as I'm criticizing this game, I'm still liking for it. Kind of like not apples to apples, but you and Sony, you're like, by the way, I like Sony.
Yeah, I have to remind people because I've been saying how much I hate everything Sony's doing right now.
By the way, I'm still excited for this game. I will be getting the digital deluxe edition, not the collector's physical stuff. I'm kind of over that just because, again, for more reasons. One, as I discussed previously, I'm team digital game versus physical disc. But yeah, like I said, this one, it didn't make me hype for it, but to a point, if it's not broke, they'll fix it. And there's a lot of things for me that I was criticized about it or like curious about it, but I am so excited for this game, and I am still going to get that digital deluxe edition.
That's cool, man. I'm definitely rooting for you on that. You definitely should. So speaking of just Dead Island and games that we've chosen for our fantasy card, I just thought it'd be interesting just to talk about this a little bit, and then we can also segue into some other stuff here. But so Dead Island 2, obviously, it's part of your fantasy card. Any concerns on the reviews, potential reviews?
I want to say yes and no because I don't know where this is going to go, dude.
Definitely be a coin toss, right? As far as just mixed reviews.
Yeah, well, because also what's making me doubt myself, kind of like a sports better when there's like an upset, is like Hogwarts outperformed Atomic Heart. what? I would never thought
Yeah.
that game was going to outperform anything. You and I were very critical and very nervous about the game. We're like, this game's in production hell. This game got announced when you and I were both working at a job over like roughly what feels like a decade ago. You know, um, I know, trust in that combat. Da 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 da. Things we discussed before, and how Atomic Heart wasn't as successful as I thought it was going to be for reasons you know more than me. We'll go more into it because you've been playing it. So with Dead Island, um, I'll be honest. I think from what I saw from the script, if reviewers are like me, I think the script might actually hurt the scores more because of that cringy corniness. I put it this way: I if you have done right, the cringy corniness can be an excellent booster for it. Sunset Overdrive did comedy for the goal to be funny. I feel like this script so far and a lot of other gaming scripts are edgy or quirky just to be edgy or quirky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas other games are written funny for the goal of to be funny versus sometimes scripts giving that feeling where they're trying to be funny to say people, look, we know you, we know what you like. And I'm like, no, you don't.
I think it's a great point, Arthur. I think too we need to have an episode about this Chat GPT stuff and how that's going to influence gaming, because I think it absolutely is, in multiple fronts. But definitely want to have that on a future episode. But you mentioned Atomic Heart. I wanted to talk about kind of my update in the game, and then also just like get a little bit of an understanding of like how people feel about this game. Because obviously it got 74, so it didn't get the greatest of reviews, and like you said, Hogwarts even performed a lot better. So let me read off a couple of reviews here for the game. So this is IGN Luke Riley. So it says Atomic Heart is a highly imaginative, Adam Punk inspired attempt at picking up where the likes of Bioshock left off, that makes missteps but definitely has his ticker to punch well above its weight. PC Gamer 78 says Atomic Heart aims high end even though it doesn't quite pull it off. It is a decent shooter in an exceptionally realized setting. Games Radar Plus, Joshua West, 2.5 out of 5 stars, says Atomic Heart is a messy video game with big ideas and a desperate need for refinement. Metroid Game Central said the mix of highbrow story concept and complex first-person combat is certainly reminiscent of Bioshock, but this churlish homage has nowhere near the same nuance in terms of either plot or gameplay. GameSpot said Atomic Heart, 6 out of 10. Atomic Heart lacks a follow-through on its most interesting narrative concepts and plays it safe with first-person shooter gameplay. And I'll read the last one here, Destructoid. It says here, they got a 6 out of 10. Slightly above average or simply inoffensive. Fans of the genre should enjoy them a bit, but a fair few will be left unfulfilled. So it sucks too, because I feel like those summaries don't really give a detail enough of why they gave it those scores. Some of them did. It seems like a lot of them just don't like the story, which in essence is kind of on brand for me. So I want to say I'm about 20 hours into Atomic Heart. I think it's really good. I think it's really good. I think
You're playing it.
Yeah. So I mean, upgrading your weapons, your abilities, I think that stuff is really great. It's really good. But the issue really is the story for me. I think when you're playing this, you're playing this Russian guy again who doesn't seem Russian at all. He has a very, very American accent, and it doesn't really seem like he's from Russia at all. But you just kind of play an idiot. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, unless there's something different in the gameplay that is completely off-putting from what it's leading to, where I'm like, dude, Dr. Sechenov obviously is spoilers. Dr. Sechenov obviously is the bad guy, and this guy is just like a pawn or whatever of him. I just hate those type of storyline mechanics, and then to me, it just gets more and more annoying, like as it goes on. I think one technical issue of the game, maybe not a technical issue, but just the developer choice. I think it's way too hard to. Some of the weapons in the game, I think, should be more readily available. because you have to get these blueprints that are in these crates throughout the game. And there's certain, like, I'm collecting a bunch of ammo of weapons that I cannot use because I don't have the blueprint yet, and I'm like 10, 15 hours into the game. I'm like, something's wrong. Like, that is, to me, that is an imbalance. If I have hundreds of rounds of a weapon that I can't unlock because I didn't go into XYZ thing to open this crate for this weapon, I feel like that there's an issue with that. It's like, imagine in Call of Duty, if you're 10, 15 hours into the game and you can only play with a pistol, a shotgun, and a taser. It's like, what? You know what I mean? So I think there's issues with that as far as just the imbalance of collecting weapons throughout the game. So that is, to me, that's annoying. That's one of the biggest annoying things where I'm like, yo, there's mad things around here that I can't even use. Like, even one of the characters gives you they give you a blueprint. It's kind of an opposite thing, but they give you a blueprint, but I didn't have enough resources, and I still don't have enough resources to unlock this thing that they got. You know, it was like a rocket launcher blueprint, but I don't have the resources to collect it because of whatever reason. So I just think there's certain gameplay choices that they put into the game that don't make a lot of sense, and it kind of makes it less fun. You know, like, if I didn't have the weapon, if I didn't have the other abilities, you know, as far as like telekinesis and all this stuff, like, the game would be like literally unplayable. So that's one of my biggest issues with it is that. And there's a lot of glitches. Like, first I didn't have any issues, but later on I did. Like, there was one point I literally could enter certain areas that I had to enter in order to progress through the game. And I turned off the game because I was super annoyed. And then I guess there was an update or something and they fixed it. But there's certain points where you get stuck somewhere and you can't move, you know, and then you have all these enemies that are trying to kill you. So there's just weird nuances like that when it comes to Atomic Heart.
That, as someone who was going to play it, I held off because I heard things from you, and that's also on my draft list. Very disappointing. Because when it comes to, like, again, blueprints and RPG things, exploration is it's like there's that thin line you have to walk, that for people that don't have time or that don't scrounge every single nook and cranny in the entire game, just want to check out the main quest line or whatever it may be, the game still has to be playable. Right. And most games balance that by giving you a basic version. For example, Dying Light. Dying Light introduces the shield mechanic. When you unlock that, they give you a basic rundown, low stat, nothing special, no elemental, a shield. You have a shield, but none of the bells and whistles. If you want the bells and whistles, you can go find the bells and whistles. But you can't. But you are able to say, hey, at least I have a shield. And same thing with guns. Is like, usually they give you a basic, here, take this, boom, and they hand you a pistol or thing of a basic thing. And if you want to add blueprints or mods, upgrades, whatever, how their crafting specifically works, same thing. You can go explore that. You can do side quests for it. So it's unfortunate that, and this is why connecting Dying Light, where I feel like I'm getting more and more nervous about it the more I talk about it, connected to Dying Light, Atomic Heart, all we saw was face value gameplay, shooting and using powers. So all this other RPG side of it that fell short, we didn't really see any of that previously. We saw cool telekinesis, cool electrical powers, cool weapons, and two robots whose character models were focused on very heavily. So again, what you're saying is I don't know if it's grindy. I know some RPGs do that, where it's like, oh no, you want to go get resources, keep doing that. Well, that's not making it more difficult because you have to go do more of it. That just makes it more grindy.
Yeah.
Something Ubisoft is notorious for, why Ubisoft introduces their quote unquote fast pass or shortcut DLC, where it's like, oh, you have to go find all those shards. You could just pay us and we'll give you those shards. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, to say that a game, a developer, a publisher, a marketing team might say, oh, the game is difficult, has difficulty because of that. Like, that doesn't make it difficult. That makes it just grindier. You know what I mean? That a boss attacking a certain speed or increasing the difficulty. That's a difficulty setting.
Yeah. And I
Not
think I think I think
circle back.
mentioning, oh, I'm sorry, I was going to say, to your point, mentioning Dying Light is a good comparison, because Dying Light also is a little bit difficult when it comes to getting weapons in the game, right? But I think what Dying Light does what does well is the balance in it. Like, if you're collecting weapons or ammunition, more than likely you'll be able to find that weapon pretty easily right afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, I remember it took a long time for me to get an automatic like rifle, like a machine gun for Dying Light. But the same time when I finally collected ammunition for it, I ended up killing someone who had that weapon. So there's the balance there. But it's like, imagine collecting all of this ammunition, and you don't have that weapon. You don't know where the blueprint is, because they won't tell you. I have to literally search online. You know what I mean? And I feel like this is the imbalance when it comes to, like, even like strategy guides, right? Where it's like, or like back in the day when strategy guides is like, oh, like, this is how you find everything or go through everything. But if I play the game, eventually I can find it myself. I just have to do the work. But for this game, it's like, okay, you guys literally aren't guiding me into how can I find these things. And now I'm just collecting a bunch of ammunition for a weapon that I don't know how to find. And you guys aren't telling me how to find it. So I'm like, there's a gap there. You know what I mean? So there's literally like a gaming issue in the development process of making it. So yeah. So I mean, that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I'm still gonna finish the game. There's a lot of puzzles in it. Like every other thing, there's puzzles in the game. They're not hard puzzles, but it's just more like annoying hurdles per se. It's not as annoying as like the tanks in Arkham Knight, where it's like, okay, they literally just stopped caring about the Batman game. But it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but the gameplay is so fun. Like, I love just like grabbing a bunch of people via telekinesis into the air and then slamming them to the ground, and everyone just blows in pieces. Like, that's just too fun. I'll keep playing that.
That's good, because there are some times where if the gameplay doesn't at least quote unquote save the game, it makes you come back to it. Um,
Definitely.
I was gonna say with you, I can't think of an example other than GTA, but you're right. It's like the game, it's like built into the game where you reach a certain level or you're getting certain ammo. Now this becomes more available, because for a while, we can play an RPG. You're like, I want a bow. And then around the same time you find a bow, you finally start getting arrows, or vice versa, chicken the egg. Once you start finding arrows, you start finding a bow. I'll say one example of this. I feel like is we've all noticed is GTA. GTA always has this thing where if you're in the wild, you see a ton of cars. The second you get into one car, you see nothing but that car everywhere. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
could be a GT, you could be in GTA, look forever for a Hummer. I think it's called the Patriot. I want to say it's called the Patriot. You can go ever in Vice City looking for the Patriot, or in San Andreas looking for the Patriot. Hours of the game, never find one. The second you jump into one Patriot, poof, they're all over the place. They're in Inglewood,
They
they're
all
in Santa
unlock.
Monica, they're in Hollywood Hills. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Crenshaw's got Hummers everywhere.
Yep.
It's just so that's I don't know why, but that's something I don't know why, but when you were saying that, that's what made me think of like, it's like, oh, I can't find this. It's like, it's like, oh, we're starting to get ammo for X, Y, and Z. Let's start providing, the matching guns for the same things. But again, I don't know why it just reminded me of GTA of like, man, I need to find this Porsche, whatever their 911 was called. I think their 911 was like a Jaguar or a cat, something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I said, you can't find it. The second you get in that Porsche 911, boom, there's 911s all over the place.
Nice, nice. So let's lean to the topic of the show here, the main topic of the show, which is The Last of Us episode 7 review. I last minute, but I ended up watching it, and you ended up watching it as well.
Your last
Interesting.
minute was much earlier than my minute.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I mean, once again, I think this is a really good episode, and it seemed like this episode was definitely dedicated to the Left Behind DLC for The Last of Us Part 1. And I think they did it carbon copy, almost damn near carbon copy to how the actual gameplay and cinematics were for the Left Behind DLC. Um, I think my only annoyance, but obviously it wasn't too annoying. It was the first part of the show where Joel's like about to conk out, and then she's debating if she's gonna leave, and then it flashbacks to her running in the gym, in the ward or whatever with all the kids.
The Fedra zone.
Yeah, the Fedra zone. Thank you. But there wasn't any subtitle. There wasn't anything dictating like 9 months ago or years ago or this. It just cut to her in the Fedra zone, and I was like, I guess that annoyed me.
It was
like,
weird. It was a weird timing for a transition. It's like, Joel, no, leave me, leave me. You know what this reminds me of? Doodaloo, 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 doodaloo. The
Jogging
Wayne's
in
World.
the gym.
Cue the Wayne's World flashback. Oh, doodaloo, doodaloo.
Yeah, I was like, it's kind of a weird transition. That wasn't the smoothest transition, but I mean, beyond that, I thought it was great. I pretty much was right for the most part because I said last episode for Gamers for Life, I said this episode Joel's not going to be in it, and for the majority he wasn't, because in fact it was the Left Behind DLC that they were filling in within these episodes. But I thought it was interesting. The only thing that I don't know if it connected. I don't know if it connected as well as they wanted it to. Was I forgot the lady's name that she had, her friend that she kind of had an interest with. I forgot her name.
Her buddy.
Yeah, her buddy.
Sorry.
I said that like that. I don't remember her name, but as far as for that story, right, the Left Behind DLC story, and in general, it connecting to like, I guess maybe it was just connecting to like, I've lost like all these people that I've cared about and loved, Zaza. And then, as she's at the door, it's like, I'm not losing Joel because I lost too many people. So maybe that's probably the connection there. I don't know if it was the smoothest connection as far as like, versus say like, oh, let's just watch this flashback of when she was here, and then we'll cut back and we'll finish the episode. So I don't know if it was as smooth of a transition when it comes to inputting the Left Behind DLC and coming back to it. But overall, I thought it was a solid episode. I thought it was really well done. I feel like most of the episodes, they didn't feel like filler episodes, even though they could be in fact defined as them. Like episode 3 with Bill, like that could definitely be considered a filler episode. But I think because it was so good and interesting that it kind of waves over our heads, similar to this Left Behind DLC one, where this may be more so considered a filler episode because we're like, Joel's dying and you're riding on a carousel. Obviously it's a flashback, but this may be considered more of a. We gotta stop
the bleeding. Is that Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, like this could be more defined as a filler episode. But I mean, it was, everyone killed it. I think Ellie did a really good job. Ellie did a really good job. The person who acted as her friend, she's been in a bunch of stuff. She's in Euphoria. She's in Ava DuVernay's thing. She's a really good actress. And again, she killed it. But yeah, I've yet to have an episode where I've been like, I don't like this episode. And I think that's pretty impressive for 7 consecutive episodes where I'm like, this is good. But what are your thoughts?
This one was the closest, I would say. Not that I don't like it, but this one was the first one so far that wasn't like, whoa, for either action and or story. I think you're right, because one, the transition, and two, the overall link to it was the landing wasn't stuck. You know what I mean? It's I feel, again, I feel like the connections of why, if you had to say why, like why wasn't important we saw that, it's like we can say face value why it was important to Ellie and why that's a big memory and a big moment for her, but in terms of why we're seeing this now in the middle of what's happening with Joel, that's where you're right, where the timing wasn't great, wasn't the smoothest transition. I think Jerrell has done better transitions than that. So and again, this is one I want to know, someone who hasn't played the game, what do they think? Because for people like us that have played the game or know the DLC, I thought it went on longer than it should have. Now, the Bill episode, I think was done great because it was such a stray from the original content that I was still looking at like, okay, we know what's going to happen because in the game for compared to episode 3, because in the game Bill's alive, Bill's there with Joel, and he's a character in the story. Whereas with episode 3, it was detached from the original source material really, and they did their own thing. So for them to end episode 3 like that, I thought was done great. Not only is its own narrative, but again, how they detach from it. Whereas this one we know them was source material, and because it was a 1-to-1, we knew what's coming. I thought it could have been cut down a little more. Now that's also coming from somebody who is quote unquote familiar with the source material, but I never played the DLC. By the way, for looking it up, Storm Reed is the actress, and Riley was the character's name.
Yes,
so
I was. Thank you.
I got you. So again, this one, it definitely is not bad, but this one was the first one where I thought the pacing wasn't great. And I will say this though, I thought it also, even though it was one, I feel like it went on a little too long. I also thought they would have ended it differently because I kind of wanted to see how she died. Because remember, when the first time we meet Ellie, she's not walking free doing what she wants. The first time we meet Ellie in this show, she is with Marla or whatever that person's name is, with that Firefly subgroup.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have seen, since we've already seen a lot of significant deaths. We have. So I wanted to see that, like the kind of final moments of those two characters and her transitioning into meeting the Fireflies in the Boston Fedra zone. Versus they're just hugging, they've accepted death. And it ends. Because I want to say in the one episode where Ellie was questioning Joel and whether he's a quote unquote good guy, and Joel was saying, "Have you killed anyone?" And I want to say she said yes, or did she say no to that question? Remember?
I think she said something that pretty much alluded to she has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like with how important that episode was and that conversation was, if Riley, her best friend, and like who had a crush on, aka her buddy, her pal, if I would like to have seen the emotional impact of just her having to kill Riley. I mean, it's not like the show skimps off of emotional hard deaths. They've given us plenty. So I felt like this was one that I kind of wanted to. This is the one I wanted to see the most, actually, of Ellie going through that. So that's for me. Like, I have a little more gripes. It still gets, in terms of pass fail, it still gets a pass for me. But off the cusp, I feel like there's more negatives than shouting, glowing, huge, amazing positives that we've seen in previous episodes. For a lot of us, of course, there's nostalgia or the hashtag I'm old, of all the stuff of her going through the mall and us, reminding us that Ellie was born into this world. Ellie was born into this apocalypse. She didn't grow up into it like her friend Riley, who was like, "Have you ever seen dead people?" "Yeah, idiot. I've seen my dead parents," and
yeah.
So that's kind of my thing. It's like a Catch 22 where the way that it was done, I felt like it was shorter, but the way it ended, I would have liked to see more of that last bit.
Yeah, because it's a balancing act, right? Because that's exactly how the pacing of the DLC in the game is. You know what I mean? As far as the nostalgia of her seeing all these things. And really what's carrying us through the episode is this dialogue and the chemistry between, Ellie and Riley. You know what I mean? That's really what's carrying us through. And I thought they had a really good chemistry. They had good enough chemistry to carry through the episode for me, at least. I don't know if I wanted to see Ellie kill Riley. But I can understand if you did. But I do think that is a good point, though, as far as like it would have been nice because we got to the point where we see that scar, right? The same scar that Joel and Tess see, as far as like Joel, like she has the scar, she's like, no, wait, I'm not, you know what I mean? So, but I think it would have been interesting, at least to see like when she turns, and then before she starts turning, she realizes that it's like that Ellie is special because she's not turning. You know what I mean? So, and that obviously that would have been an extra add-on, separate from the Left Behind DLC, because in playing the game that doesn't happen. That's separate. But I think that would have been interesting too. So yeah, I think they could have. I think they could have connected. They could have connected it a bit better as far as just adding this DLC and having it tied just a little smoother into the story of this show. So that I definitely agree with. I agree with you there. Next episode I'm really excited for. I don't know if I should say it because spoilies, but I'm like, yo,
I watched it, dude. If people go to the movie theaters and wait like 15 minutes for a Marvel credit scene, wait like 60 seconds for this show sneak peek to pop up. Just saying.
Yeah. I was like, yo, crazy.
I watched, Jerrell, you're not spoiling it. I watched the sneak peek too. Let's talk about it. I am hyped for this next episode.
I'm like, yo, they got our boy Troy Baker in the show. I said, that is fire. I'm excited. I'm terribly excited. He's one of my favorite voice actors. Like, a second to Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, the late great Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
But dude, because that's my thing in terms of, again, me watching, not playing, watching it. That segment in the game that we're going to see in next episode, that was my favorite segment in the game. I try not to go soapbox too much, but to Last of Us 2, I'll say this. Another reason why, just for context here, one of the reasons why I was, as a viewer, a little more critical on Last of Us 2 is because the non-Joel segments in Last of Us 1 with Ellie were some of my favorite parts of the game to watch and to be immersed in. Like that whole segment, the whole sequence with Ellie and spoiler, what are going to be the cannibals, which with Troy Baker in the group there, and that last boss sequence that they hinted at in the sneak peek, those were some of my favorite segments of the game. So again, whereas comparing the non-Joel segments in Last of Us 2 with Abby, that's, again, me as a viewer didn't play it. I was like, nah. But again, so all I can say is that this next episode, I'm especially excited for, because that was my favorite part in Last of Us 1.
Yeah, it was definitely intense. I was like, God, I hate this son of a bitch. So definitely excited. I wonder if this is, I don't think it is, but I wonder if this is Troy Baker's not directorial debut, but acting debut. And like,
I doubt it. I mean, I feel like I don't think it's worth a bet. Now, this might be his first, like, quote unquote big actorial debut, because I feel like he's definitely appeared in a lot of online shorts or like
acting debut. I almost said directorial debut as well.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So like I said, I feel like in terms of quote unquote mainstream, I feel like this is, or at least big break, right. Cue like a random B movie or something. Like, no offense to that. I'm just saying, I feel like you're right. This is his first big actorial debut.
Nice.
Being in front of the camera instead in front of a mic.
Yep.
Going back to the episode itself here, I think what you're saying on, because they couldn't fit it in perfectly via transitioning or linking it, the overall power, or I don't want to say power, but overall tone or brevity of what we saw to the episode that's happening at hand. I think that's why it feels like a filler episode. That's kind of what filler episodes are. Filler is like their own thing. They don't have a home. They don't have a place, but we still want to show it to you. We'll put it here. Boom, it's a filler episode.
Yeah, the story isn't necessarily progressing. Everything that's happening isn't progressing the current episode, Yeah.
If I had to choose editing choices, I would have tried to cut them two together as it was happening. Like, while her and while Ellie and Riley were like struggling with the clicker, I would have cut back to what is one of the last shots of the episode of her frantically going through the dressers and drawers, and because that tone would have matched it. You know what I mean? I would have. I don't know how many times, like, again, if how many times I would have, quote unquote, done that matching cut, but that's something I would have liked to see in terms of the match, the tone and their pacing of the overall episode was, her and Riley are finding the clicker. Oh, frantic, it's frantic, it's frantic. Boom, cut back to, oh yeah, there's real things. Because you kind of forget, because of because this episode is 98% the filler, we kind of forget Joel's pretty much dying, by the way. That's happening. We might have forgot, but it's not like Joel doesn't have a paper cut. Dude is bleeding internally.
Yeah.
But you would really never feel that based on this episode. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it was like Joel passed out, memories, stitches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cause that's how I would have kind of brought more brevity to Joel's injury. Now, that being said, because of the game sequence, we might get more of that in the next episode. But that's the thing I just thought of, that again, watching that, of like, oh, Joel's not taking a nap. Joel's not sleepy. He's dying. He's like near death. He's bleeding out. It's like leaving me to die. And then again, so that kind of like that's where I feel like this would tie in better. Like, skipped, like, I feel like everything pre-Riley and that flashback we could have skipped. The Emily chick, the fight, the punishment, the talk of all, again, everything before Riley showed up in that flashback. I feel like it could have been left out. Everything before Riley sneaks in the room.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's warranted. I think it possibly could. I kind of liked it just for it to set up meeting Riley, but yeah, I agree. Was it a full necessity to show all of that? No, I think it was interesting just to show, like, kind of like the reminder of how Ellie was before Joel. Like, I thought it was interesting just to see that notion, right? And then whoever, she connected with or whatever at that point in time, how is she around other kids that are around her age? So I thought that was interesting too. But yeah, like you said, to your point, definitely not a necessity. And I take it back. I think you make a really good point of actually showing her kill Riley. I think that would have been really powerful, to your point, as far as connecting, like, hey, have you killed anyone? Like, I think if it was her that she specifically killed, someone that she, like, loved, basically, right? I think that would have been even more impactful. So I take it back. I think you are right on that. I think that would have been a good connection within the scope of what we've seen. So,
hey, yeah. I'll take it.
yeah. So I think that is a good point. But nevertheless, I liked it. I think I liked it probably a little bit more than you did. But I understand why, the reduction of you liking a bit less. It makes a lot of sense. So, so we'll see. I'm curious how Church thinks. But we'll get that once the next episode.
I'll say this: knowing how the first game ends, but also knowing what's the next episode to be about, I have a theory about the season finale.
Lay it on me.
I'm trying to think. I'm on the fence now of what exactly and how much goes down in the quote unquote hospital, spoiler of the game, massacre to save Ellie. Is gonna be in the season finale. Now, I know they've kind of said it's gonna be a 1-to-1 thing, but knowing that what episode 8 is gonna mainly consist of, I'm kind of nervous. I'm not like nervous like, oh, it's gonna be bad. I'm just wondering, again, pacing wise, like how quick we're going to go from episode 8 cannibals to I'm about to kill a ton of fireflies. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
that like, not, I guess you could say not so much the season finale of episode 9. I'm more curious about the transition between the ending of episode 8 and Joel starts murdering people.
I mean, there's a traveling aspect. It isn't just next scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not going to be that awkward of the transition.
Yeah, that's just my thing of like, I don't mean like start the episode. I mean, I'm going to talk about conversation, realizing that, hey, we're about to cut this girl, again, spoiler, about to cut this girl's brains out. She will not survive this. That's what I'm saying. So episode 8, cannibal fight to, boom, we gotta start killing people in the hospital. That bridge is, I'm not nervous about. I'm curious of how they're gonna play. I'm curious of that, how that transition is gonna play out, because I feel.
I mean, you
That's
say
the moment.
transition. To me, those are two important moments, but they're not connected to each other. So you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of build up to those points. You know,
Yeah.
those are just the last two biggest parts of the game. You know what I mean?
That's just me, because I'm a detailed. I guess you could say I'm a more detailed guy of like that. But so it's kind of, this isn't the best comparison, but like, how can I put it? In terms of when we saw the trailer for Batman v Superman, I correctly predicted that's gonna be like a 3-minute fight. Count to 60 times, multiply it by 3. That's all. That's the only fighting we're gonna get between Batman versus Superman, and that's gonna be the rest of the movie is gonna be whatever it's gonna be. What I'm saying is how much of the hospital is going to be the season finale versus dust settles, Ellie and Joel talking to the sunset. I don't, again, not nervous about it. I'm just trying to, I just want to know how. I'm curious. I think if the whole episode is be this gunfire the whole time, or versus like how much of that build up to the moment where I'm gonna kill all of you to save this girl. That's that trigger. That's why I'm curious of how I really want to see that.
Yeah, I want to see it too. I think maybe if you go back to the cinematics of the game or the gameplay of that last part of the game, it doesn't seem like it doesn't to me. It doesn't seem like we switch from this to this. Like what? Like there's a whole like slow connection to those things, and then him making that decision, things like that, like just like regular plot device stuff that happens. So I don't I am curious to see like the build up of that. Maybe that's what I'm trying to connect with what you're referring to. I think though, with what you're saying, I think we need to be introduced some way, shape, or form to Abby at the end of this season. I think that's a necessary thing, because for me, or for maybe for other gamers as well, for season 2, we were like, who is this person? And then eventually like, oh, that's the daughter of one of the doctors that were killed, that Joel killed, right? I think it'd be even more powerful if we get an introduction to Abby, and we get an introduction to her finding her father, right? Because in Last of Us Part 2, there are like 2 different flashbacks of her running through the hospital hallway, red lights and whatnot, and finding her father dead, right? When Joel took Ellie and bounced, right? When she was unconscious or whatever. So I think it would be really powerful when he leaves with Ellie, Joel leaves with Ellie and she finds him. I think that would be a great bridge point to, not obviously in the season, but you remember who this person is because, oh yeah, that's the daughter that saw her doctor probably get killed. Like I think that would be really impactful to try to help set up season 2. And obviously they kind of have to fix season 2, but we'll talk about that later.
I now that you're saying that, or by the way, you're right. Yes, the buildup was that build up was more the word I was looking for than transition.
Oh, okay.
So not like how to walk from A to B, but you are correct. Thank you. Build up was more of the inkling I was aiming at there. So appreciate that.
I hope it's as smooth, right? Because they've been like the first episode super smooth on from the beginning of like the whenever the shit goes awry and all that stuff. Yeah, like they did that, they executed that very well. So to your point, that buildup should be executed just as fluid. I think that's really important to do that. They can't have another episode 7 when it comes to that. It has to be a lot smoother. So I agree with you on that.
I was gonna say though, I think you're onto something. I'm curious and willing to bet. I think Abby finding her father will be the second to last shot we see in season 1. The last shot's going to be Ellie and Joel driving to the sunset. I think that's why I think it's going to end. Like right before credits drop, second to last shot, Ellie and dead dad. Cut to Ellie and Joel talking of like, what happened? Oh, they don't need you. Turns out I got dozens of kids like you, and drive off. I think Ellie and Joel I think Ellie and Joel driving to the sunset. I think specifically sunset. Um, will be
Is
the
that what
last
happened?
shot.
I'm trying to remember it. Maybe there's a lot of sun in there, but I don't remember it being like da 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 da. Like no, like, it was
But
at the end of the game. It was more like Ellie kind of has an idea that she lied,
like,
but she just kind of is going with it. You know what I mean? And obviously, Joel has this selfish guilt, but
yeah, yeah. And I don't, by the way, I don't mean driving to the sunset like
officer
hey,
and gentleman. Oh my god.
Yeah, but I just mean like physically a truck
Yeah.
at dawn,
driving away. Yeah.
or trucking a road at dawn. But that's what I'm thinking. Second last shot, Abby and dead dad. Last shot, truck on the road at dawn.
Yeah.
Or dusk. Yeah, dusk.
Yeah. It'd be funny if it happened just the other way around. You're like, damn it, I was almost right.
No, watch like the last shot. Watch like they cut to Ellie and Joel talking about that. It's like, oh, they didn't need you. They didn't need you. Cut back to the fire alarms. Foreboding shot. Slow zoom in. Beep 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 beep, and all of a sudden this jacked arm just grabs the chest of this dead doctor, and you just see her pull out her photo, like a family photo, in this doctor's pocket. Bam! Last shot of the show. Just a jacked arm coming in the frame.
She's not gonna be
the caresser's dead father.
She's not gonna be. She's not gonna be. She'll be jacked afterwards, but.
I'm just saying, a foreboding slow zoom in shot on a dead doctor, and just whoa, like bam, foreboding, menacing, capable of wielding a golf club very well. Jacked arm comes in the frame, caresses the dead doctor, pulls out a family photo. Boom, end of season 1.
That's funny. All right, so couple last things here. I don't know how much we want to talk about this, but Capcom is confirmed to have a digital event, which I believe will be sometime this week. So it says here from Video Game Chronicles, Capcom Spotlight will stream on Thursday, March 9th, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. Excuse me, with a pre-show 20 minutes earlier. According to the pub, goddamn ads. Says here, Capcom. Goddamn ads. Okay, according to the publisher, the event will feature news on Resident Evil 4, Exto Primal, Monster Hunter Rise, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, and Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. So this is a digital event where we'll be sharing updates and new information about our upcoming games, Capcom said. And it said Capcom recently claimed on its course to sell more games in a fiscal year than any other in its history. With the continued sales of catalog titles, plus the release of Resident Evil 4 scheduled for March 24, a week before the end of its fiscal year, Capcom said during the recent financial results, it's expected to sell more than 40 million game units, which is nice, but I don't really care that much. Capcom Spotlight. So that should be interesting. That definitely, I might tune in on that just to see. To me, the biggest thing is, I mean, I guess it's Resident Evil 4. I mean, we all know it's going to be a banger. You know what I mean? But I guess just to show a little more is nice. But
do you think Capcom's gonna pull a Capcom and add a no? I guess I can answer my own question. I wasn't asking. Do you think Capcom's gonna pull a Capcom and add a weird feature, something no one asked for? For example, like the horrible multiplayer that was linked with the Resident Evil 3 remake. Remember that?
yes.
But I was going to answer my own question because they already showed sort of the mercenaries thing. They kind of hinted at the mercenaries mode in Resident Evil 4. So I was going to say, do you think they're going to add this weird, wacky Capcom blah mode that they think people will like and turns out it's horrible? But
Yeah.
No, because they already announced mercenaries, which thankfully they realized they better not mess up, which I don't think they will.
Yeah, and strangely enough, they're on brand for stuff like that. I wonder if they're going to show anything Street Fighter related. That is interesting that the article didn't mention anything about Street Fighter 6. I'm like, that's another big game, isn't it?
The one trailer I saw from somewhere, they didn't mention that. I think it's going to be another character reveal. I mean, it's a fighting game. It's not like a tearjerker RPG. Um, I think something Church was talking about. Either they might hint that they're going to try to make a comprehensive, quote unquote, thrilling story that Mortal Kombat has very deservedly, set a high bar for fighting game stories. Um, and or another character reveal, because so far we got Cammy's new design, Zangief, and that new character who is either related to or the same tribe as T-Hawk. Um, so I didn't know that until like I watched a recap on it, and they're like, "Oh, it's the Thunder tribe," and they're like, "By the way, same tribe as that guy." So I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Oh, nice.
So again, I think we see Street Fighter. Things be brief. I think it's going to be just another character reveal, or if they don't show a character reveal, I think it needs to be more of a story because I now, mind you, I didn't play last Street Fighter, console exclusive, but up until now, their campaigns and their story has been pretty consistently okay. It's kind of like to a point, I'd argue, like Call of Duty. The majority, because remember, you got to remember games like Advanced Warfare and Ghost exists. The Call of Duty campaigns are brief. They exist. We look forward to them, but it's not. But the campaign's not the reason we keep coming back. It's the
Ghost was
gameplay.
terrible. You know what's funny? It used to be the Modern Warfare 1 and 2 fire campaigns, Black Ops fire campaigns, but Ghost awful. Advanced War very okay. You know what I mean? Like it just got worse and worse.
Yeah, we won't. We don't need to soapbox what everyone says the same thing. That's what happens. You pump a game in every year. Um,
Exactly.
so again, I wonder how much they're going to stick to. I would say stick to their lane of just make a passable story, which you know, I would argue they haven't had any A plus, Mortal Kombat 11 style story, um, you know, story scripts and overall, surprises. So I wonder if they're going to stick to the lane or try to go branch out of that and see what more they can do. Which, given the fact that it's going to be quote unquote open world, I don't think they will. I think in a smart way, they're going to lean more towards Street Fighter, lean towards the gameplay. Stay in your lane, turn into the Swerve. Just have a great fighting game with a passable campaign, and I think they have a chance to just do what Street Fighter has always done and just be a consistently successful game.
I agree, and this is definitely a big one on my fantasy card, so I'm rooting for it. But it does well. For fuck's sake.
Do you
And
know who I want them to? Do you know who I want them to announce?
hmm,
Chun Li. I think it'll be a smart move to show Chun Li because following the quote unquote success, or I want to say at least the number of purchases that I've heard of loosely of her skin from Fortnite, there were a handful of reasons why she was a very purchased, very highly designed character model for Fortnite. But
oh yeah,
again, I think if they were who's the next character they were to show, I think Chun Li would be a smart call.
I agree. I think that's a good move as well. Speaking of more DLC here, from Software, they announced that an Elden Ring expansion is going to be in the works. Shadow of the Erd Tree was announced via Gamatsu. Um, Curious about this. So let me read a little bit of it. So it says here in quote, Bandai Namco teased Rise, Tarnished, and Let Us Walk a New Path Together, an upcoming expansion of Elden Rings. The Shadow of the Earth Tree is currently in development. We hope you look forward to new adventures in the land between. And the Elden Ring currently is available on PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, and Xbox and PC via Steam. It still pisses me off that we're still making games for PS4 and fucking Xbox One, but I think this is cool. I mean, they just said that it's in development, so like we were talking about before off air, this game's not coming out this year, so I'm not adding it on my fantasy card. you know, Let me ask you this because this was an interesting question that came up around like the Kind of Funny Games Daily and some other platforms as well, I believe. Do you think Elden Ring players will be just as eager to get to the DLC as they were playing the game?
I
Like,
think
will it be like a Skyrim situation where, like, whatever DLC they make, people are gonna scour to it and put another 40 hours into it.
I think it depends on its release date. I think it depends what it's up against. Like we said, I'm nervous about the overall at least launch success of Dead Island 2 because it's on the heels of Jedi Survivor, which I think is a very going to be a very huge popular game that people are excited about. I'm excited about. They're both on my fantasy card. Um, so let's say it comes out during a dead time. Let's say they kill the. Let's say that in terms of launch dates, they kill it. It's a dead zone. It's a drought of gaming. Nothing. There's no competitors. I I think yes, but not in droves. I think it's going to get great reviews, but we won't see like astronomical player bases compared to launch. It's one of those things where the I don't want to say few, but I'll just I don't like, few is not the most accurate word, but I feel like it's going to be very the quote unquote few will be very vocal about how good about how good it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think you make a really good point. You made several good points. So the first one is it's going to depend on when it releases because I feel like for Elden Ring, a part of its success was when it released. It came out when nothing else was out. Really, I mean,
Well, I mean, it was the Horizon killer.
yeah, well, yeah, I was about to say, I said Forbidden West came out, but people forgot about that shit. Uh, Dying Light 2. Dying Light 2 came out around that time as well, and then Elden Ring just kind of stopped over both of those things. And there wasn't anything else out for like at least another month or so. So just like it dominated in sales for the rest of of last year. So, um, I, and yeah, I think it's going to be popular. I feel like a lot of their marketing is going to dictate the excitement of the game and then the details around okay what's different about about the DLC in general. And yeah, like you said, when it releases is going to be really important because if it comes out the same time as another heavy RPG, say if it's something from Obsidian or something like that, who knows if people are going to run to Elden Ring, right? Um, so yeah, interesting points definitely on your part.
Oh man, you just made me rehyped for Avowed.
Dude, I've been waiting, man. I've been waiting to see who's gonna drop the goods on the more details around that because I'm waiting for it.
Dude, I again, for those who aren't familiar, I'll keep it brief. Obsidian has been the quote unquote the relief pitcher for RPGs via Knights of the Old Republic 2, Fallout New Vegas, and then killed it, I thought, with Outer Worlds, which was
Right.
aka a Fallout, but trim the fat. Um,
And a sequel for that, waiting on that one.
well, here's the thing. I'm kind of okay with the wait on Elder Worlds 2 because
Yeah,
that trailer joked about it. Like
that's true. Yeah.
it's like the Outer Worlds 2 announcement trailer was a parody on announcement trailers. It was like, look, we're showing you this, we're showing you that. Is it gameplay? No. you know, will this come out? Will this be coming out soon? Doubtful. you know,
That's
so
true.
so they were at least upfront of like, hey, we're telling you this game is going to exist. We have no idea when. So take with that information and what you will. you
Yeah.
know,
No, yeah, that's a good point. I thought it was really smart and witty that they did it in that nature. Where it's just like, yo, we're working on this, but you gotta fucking relax.
like
Like as a gamer. So I thought that was really dope, and I think people are okay like not hearing about it because they know like they want to put as much time into it, the best time into it for the game. So I completely are with you there. I still want to hear more on Avowed, man.
Avowed.
I'm
We've only had like a 60-second CGI reveal trailer.
hmm
So, something,
yeah.
a screenshot.
Anything,
Um,
anything. Yeah.
but even if they were to copy and paste it, but picture the Outer Worlds trailer voice, but in medieval times, old English accent. Same if they did the exact same copy and paste of oh, look at the CGI trailer. It will exist when it comes out soon. When it's soon, not now. um, but
So,
yeah, so again with the Elden Ring DLC, it's kind of like almost like I wasn't gonna say the Cyberpunk DLC, but I think Cyberpunk will have a good amount of people coming back to it because of the success of Edgerunners. Like the timing of that announcement for the DLC was perfect. If that had dropped before the Edgerunners and all these massive updates, which drove the players back to the game in droves, would have been a bad time.
Yeah,
But
I think Edge Runners unequivocally was the driving force for players going back to Cyberpunk, and definitely additional hype for the DLC. That's a fact. And yeah,
like
I wish they made more because they said like they're not going to do any more Edge
they
Runners.
were very. I feel like the few times we get very upfront, transparent things, and we're told no. you know, like, hey, is there gonna be a season 2? No, we're done. Stop asking.
It's like, but I want to give you more money. No, we don't need it. It's like that's
Yeah.
it. Sorry.
Yeah, and so Cyberpunk was because the way they did the show, for those of you who haven't seen it, first of all, go watch it. And if you have not played the game and you go watch it, like their set pieces are copy and paste, like just from the game. Like there's just it. I argue to a point there was almost like no original set or location in that show that you cannot either directly go to, interact with, or at least see in the game. It was a very, very to heart.
So Cyberpunk?
The Cyberpunk show.
Oh,
Like,
the show.
the show. With the Cyberpunk Edward Jenner show, like there's so many like I said, almost every set piece in that show is a real point in the game. In fact,
Oh yeah.
in fact, during one of the times I was streaming it, I had to pause the stream because I was like, because I found an audio tape. I forget what they call it. I haven't played it in a while. I found like a audio tape, we'll call it, cyberdisk, and it starts playing Edgerunners. I thought that was like a teaser. I'm like, okay, it's been a while. They keep playing. I gotta pause the stream, and then I did off stream, and it kept playing. It was like the opening scene from the thing. And the thing is, where I found it in the game is where that scene takes place. You know what I mean?
Oh wow.
It was like a 1-to-1.
Fire.
So for those of you that have yet to still go play Cyberpunk, and also, sorry, for those of you that played Cyberpunk at day one, never finished it, but now you watch Edgerunners. I know that's a really niche few of you, but for those of you that played a little bit of Cyberpunk and have watched Edgerunners but haven't gone back to the game, go to when you watch Cyberpunk, that opening scene around the koi fish, the digital koi fish. That's where you find the tape because that's where that scene takes place. Like that 1-to-1, boof. So that was really
That's
awesome.
Awesome. Nice. I know exactly what you're referring to too. That part of the map.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep. The koi fish is there. It wasn't there day one, but since the Edgerunners update, it's there now. So again, with Elden Ring, I think it's going to be a great success. In terms of how much it becomes an overwhelming successful force that the game was, I think it depends on release date. Because there were not a lot of major contenders against Elden Ring. A launch date, Horizon West was going to be a good game. I knew that, but it was also console exclusive. So Elden Ring had Xbox, it had PC again, going for it. So with this DLC, like I said, will it bring as many people in droves back to the game that Cyberpunk did? I don't think so. But again, I think Edgerunner was the biggest force behind that. So that's why. So that's my kind of, again, quote unquote apples to apples of how many people will go back to Elden Ring when the DLC drops. A lot, yes. The same numbers we saw people going back to Cyberpunk following Edgerunners, no.
Yeah, fair point. I think we'll have to wait and see. And the last thing on this topic of the show here is Destiny 2's last DLC, if I'm not mistaken, Lightfall. And unfortunately, it seems like it hasn't been getting the highest of acclaim. A lot of folks aren't too happy about this guy, but I wanted to share this article here on PCGamer.com. It says here, in quote, Destiny 2's Lightfall campaign is a big disappointment after the Witch Queen. It says after making its best campaign in years, Bungie stumbles with its latest expansion. It says when the Witch Queen launched last year, it wasn't just a great Destiny 2 campaign, but a great FPS campaign full stop. After years of lightweight expansion campaigns that served as little more than funnels into Destiny 2's live service pipeline, the Witch Queen offered a great number of lengthy, challenging missions. It was a fantastic release and yet a high bar for Lightfall. The penultimate expansion in the game's Light and Darkness saga to meet. It says, unfortunately, based on the campaign, at least Lightfall doesn't match the Witch Queen quality. It doesn't even come close. Community reaction has been pretty negative, with much of a surface level gripping being on the campaign's tone. Where the Witch Queen was dark, brooding, and mysterious, Lightfall is more light and campy. Honestly, the tone was the least of my problems. Sure, the Cloud Striders feel like they parachuted in from different series altogether. Sure, I was not expecting an 80s action movie pastiche with a buddy duo of young hotshot and they're too old for their shit partner and honest-to-God training montage for the penultimate expansion to the drama saga of warring metaphysical forces. But for me, the much bigger problem is that the delivery of inconsistent within the campaign itself. So I'll stop there. Because there's just a lot here in this article. So go ahead and read it when you get the chance to on PCGamer.com, written by Phil Savage. Shout out to you, Phil. But yeah, man, I wish Church was here because he's a big Destiny guy. And I know he's had his, he's played it extensively and has had, I want to say he's had a gripe or two about the game. One of the big things I hear that, and maybe it's not necessarily the campaign's fault or the expansion's fault, but just Bungie in general, is when it comes to a new player playing the campaign, there's a few things that have to be taken into account. One, you have to beat the full original game in order to play Lightfall. That's kind of a big thing. And then also I hear just when it comes to, the inventory within the game is very convoluted, incredibly convoluted, and I hear they made even an app to help with the inventory management of the game, and it's a third-party user. Like, there's just certain things that don't make a whole lot of sense, and obviously, this is one of the things that make a game a serviceable game that's come out, almost 10 years ago, right? A long time ago, right? Where you're making a product where it's supposed to exist for many, many years. You start getting clutter. You start seeing that, you start seeing this kind of the wear and tear on the actual game itself, and the inventory management here is just really fucking awful. So I've heard a mixed bag on Lightfall here. Some people say it's fun. A lot of people they have a lot of issues with it compared to what they gotten before. But what are your thoughts? I know you're not an active Destiny 2 player, really, but it seems on brand for Bungie at this point.
I was laughing. I myself muted while you were going. I was laughing like, yo, they have an app for it, dude. We got a Clippy for Destiny 2. Hi, I see you're trying to enjoy our game. We have a lot of people having, click here to enjoy our game more with a tutorial. So Clippy for Destiny 2, make it happen. I will say this. So I was looking on the Xbox Marketplace, and again, one of the reasons why I checked there is because with the Xbox Marketplace, you can only leave a review if you have a verifiable purchase. Now, I'm not saying people don't review bomb, but I would argue on a large scale, people are less likely to review bomb or spending $70, that price point is understandably a gatekeeper. Like, you can't review this till you've bought it. It doesn't matter if you played 1 minute or 50 hours. You cannot leave a review unless you've purchased the game. So less review bombing, but it's still there. Has a 2.6. Has a 2.6 at the time of recording this on Sunday for Lightfall. There was one review I saw that's very reminiscent to Destiny 1, and which maybe eventually stop playing Destiny 1. Before I say that, I will say this, Mike. I have not played Destiny 2. I played Destiny 1, but what made it really fun, it got very repetitive very fast come endgame. Like, you beat Destiny 1, and it's like, hey, you beat Destiny 1. Do you want to play the same 3 missions 50 times so you can unlock one more mission? That was Dying Light 1 vanilla at launch. And that was
Destiny
for me.
Destiny 1? Is it Dying
Destiny
Light?
1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Destiny 1 was you beat the game, and now the post game is playing the same 3 missions, like dozens, plural of times, just to have the option to unlock the bigger, better mission. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm done. From what I've seen from Destiny 2, aesthetically looks, graphics wise, it is still a gorgeous game. Destiny 1, when I had it on my Xbox One, Destiny 1 was by far the prettiest game I owned. So aesthetically speaking, seeing what Lightfall looks like on Destiny 2, I'm like, that's gonna look really pretty on a on a 4K monitor or TV. But for me, this is one review that stuck out on the Xbox Marketplace, titled "So Confusing." Imagine playing through Titanfall 2 looking for the Ark, except you don't know what the Ark is and why it's important. That's the entire campaign. Such a step down from Witch Queen. And the reason I like that one, because I mentioned story, for me, that was kind of like the entire story of Destiny 1. The entire story for Destiny 1 was Peter Dinklage phoning it in during a loading screen. Like, well, where are we going? Oh, do you want to have a cutscene or show the in game? Now we're just gonna have a robot talk to you in a loading screen. That's the story. I'm like, it's fun to play, but I have no idea what's going on, why it's going on, who am I fighting? That's a bad guy. Why is he a bad guy? Because we told you he's a bad guy. So now I know that's not Destiny 2, but I'm seeing those again, those story, like you said, the story related things on the DLC. Um, I'm not shocked that it got like mixed reviews. I will say this. I will say I think it's getting less reviews than I thought it would. I thought it was going to get like threes or 3.5s, fours max. I knew this wasn't going to kill it. It's still Destiny 2. And that's another thing. You speak to this game about new players. Again, this really isn't really for new players. The kind of caveat there is I would argue to a point, I feel like it wasn't marketed to new players. Which is understandable. But for people that were looking to play Destiny 2, because of this, there's gonna be a lot of walls before you get to this point. As of right now, Destiny 2, the base game is a free game as far as I know, and then all the expansions are paid for. I would argue I'm a little shocked of how bad is getting scored. Again, I would say max 3.54, like on a 5 scale. I thought I was gonna get 3.5 to 4 max. So to have it averaging 2.5 to 3 in most places, I find kind of surprising because of how successful and how highly reviewed the Witch Queen was.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems. Unfortunately, it seems like it's one of those things where it's not really a full surprise. Again, I wish I could get the detail from Church on just kind of what his thoughts are. I don't know if he's played the DLC or not, but yeah, that's kind of, it seems like you know, what the issue is of the game. It seems like it's kind of melded in a sense, you know, and then obviously you have this game that is not welcoming to new players, which is weird because I feel like when it comes to a service, you think you would want to have an entry that's welcome to players, you know, but then the other issue is that you have this thing that you have this repetition issue where it's like, okay, where's the variety in what you're doing in the game? You know, obviously they say the best thing is to play the game with multiple people. Like that is the best way because you're gonna have the most fun, and then obviously they'll be able to let you know what the issue is or what the 411 is on how to manage your inventory. Um,
On story,
but
no, how to manage your inventory.
yeah,
Hey guys, okay, hey man, hey bro, I want you to play this game real quick though. Download this app. What? You gotta do it, bro. You gotta download this app.
you know, like if I joined a group, you know, a gaming group of buddies playing, you know, Destiny, and they told me that you need to download an app, it's like, okay, I'm not playing this. This is ridiculous.
Done. It's
You
like
know.
hard pass. No, just pass. I'm not. Yeah, I mean the one thing you talk about, about for new players, not exactly apples to apples, but we were talking about a while ago during the last showcase, the Xbox developer showcase. Remember Elder Scrolls Online? Elder Scrolls Online, big marketed in a big way to new players. Remember they showed, I forget how exactly they did it. It was either like, I think they said all of our DLCs are like free during a certain time or something like that. Remember that they showed all the DLCs they had, expansions. So, all the expansions, because it's like a hybrid MMO, but not an MMO. It's not World of Warcraft, but it's not Borderlands. And so with Elder Scrolls Online, they had a big push to get new players to come in with making those previous expansions public. And like I said, we talked about it. I forget if it was like, hey, this expansion's free here to here, this date, this expansion is free this to this date, or or they said, hey, you can pick two and two are free, something like that. But overall, what I'm saying is other games like Elder Scrolls Online clearly had a big focus on new players to get new players to join that community, whereas this one really didn't from the direct marketing I saw. Now, again, there may have been separate developer interviews, separate, one-on-ones, separate articles, but the overall of announcement trailers, everything like that, for example, I just, IGN, a lot of people like me use IGN for stuff like that. And for a lot of these, trailers we saw, gameplay and cinematic, nothing really like I would feel targeted at having this community to grow. It was just, here's new stuff. This is kind of for the post game people only, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But again, I would say it wasn't aimed at drawing more people in. I'm not sure if it affected it, but yet here we are with some places like 2.5 reviews where it was targeted toward the existing players, but your existing players aren't too happy. So yeah, what I mean?
Yeah. It just seems like a mess, unfortunately. And then obviously, wrapping this up, it is on Church's fantasy card. So,
dude, and seeing
good
how
luck
he has,
to him.
Dude, not gonna lie, I'm not saying, yeah, I'm glad this failed, but I'm glad this is on Church's fantasy card because Church, we're calling it out. Church has the game of the year on his sheet, which is Tears of the Kingdom. I'm sitting over here like, hey, this rookie out of nowhere, Hogwarts Legacy, put me on the board. Hey, I'm happy for it. Like I'm sitting here like a Detroit Lions fan. Like, did we go to the Super Bowl? No, but guess what, guys? We saw the playoffs. We were on a field in a playoff game. This is a win. Right, what I mean? Right. So I'm sitting here with the gamer equivalent of a Detroit Lions fan of like, man, Hogwarts Legacy is our Jared Goff. It took us the distance. Did we get to the finish line? No, but we went way farther than we thought we were going to do. Good job, Hogwarts. So seeing that again, Lightfall's on Church's sheet there with Tears of the Kingdom calling it now game of the year. I'm just like, okay, cool. If I can just be that much more considered, if my list can be that much more of a contender in this versus a blowout, I'm happy.
There you go. And then, God, it's so frustrating because all the games that I picked are coming out later in the year, but that might work out for me. We'll see. It's like, still seeing 0.
Well, the opposite is like mine, where again I have two of my games competing against each other. Dead Island, Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Survivor. Don't fight. You're both on my same team. Get along, please.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting when those games come out. See how your fantasy card looks after that,
dude. If this was like the equivalent of like last year. If you guys pick all your drafts, and like I pick Elden Ring, like no, I pick Horizon Forbidden West, and I pick Elden Ring, and I'm like, cool, Horizon Forbidden West, first week in February. All of a sudden, announced date, Elden Ring is coming out the third week in February. Shit.
Yeah, it's like no.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that is the rest of the list here for Gamers for Life. Not too much this past week, but definitely wanted to get together, get that episode in here for you guys, and getting close to our 100 episode, which is crazy to think
Centennial.
About. Which is amazing. Really excited for that, definitely. But yeah, man, any lasting words before we close out?
Thanks for listening. I'm looking forward to episode 100.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy. We should probably do something fun for that. Either be inebriate or something.
I'm depending on Wi-Fi. I'm not saying like getting a hotel, but like I'm living with family. There's a kid in the house, so like that.
Oh
but
yeah, that's gonna be an issue.
But again, I am absolutely considering my options of. I like you. I'm like, oh, maybe get a little inebriated, enjoy the night. So, what options do I have on the table to make that a possibility? We'll see.
Are you talking about? Are we talking about gaming streaming, or what are we talking about?
No, I'm talking about me throwing back a few.
Oh,
I
okay.
think out loud, like me throwing back a few might be me. If I get a hotel for the night,
Oh, okay.
hopefully wherever I stay out here in the boonies,
You can bring still
their,
pod
their
or something.
Wi-Fi, yeah, their Wi-Fi is good. So I'm in the cut. Like put it this way, where I'm at right now has a population not too much larger than the population of my high school.
You got a rotary for the internet.
Ahoy hoy.
Well, let's wrap up here for the Games for Life podcast again each and every Friday / Saturday / Sunday, discussing all things games. And one of your hosts, Jerrell. With me is the OG himself, Arthur Thomas.
That's me.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. We will see you next week.